Welcome back to Second Chance Shed with John. Today we're going to install a Western Filters MANN+HUMMEL catch can on my MQ Triton. So let's just open this first, see what we have and see what tools that we need. So here's the catch can, MANN filter ProVent 200, number 4, maybe model 4. So it's a crankcase ventilation system. Western Filters sticker. Looks like we've got the big straight hose. 125 degrees Celsius. Okay, hopefully that's enough to withstand the temperatures from the DPF. I'm sure it is. We've got some hose clamps and a couple of zip ties. Okay. Got another hose with a couple of 90-degree angles on it. This one also says 125 degrees Celsius, just like the other one. Got our bracket. Looks like a pretty dodgy job on welding. You can see they've welded these bolts into the back of this bracket. Not terrible, but not pretty. And you can see this has just been cut out fairly quickly in a workshop. You can see there's a bit of a burr on here that they didn't bother to smooth off. I might smooth that off myself. What they did do was make sure they did etch in their brand, Western Filters, onto the bracket. But yeah, I think they're having a lot of turnover at the moment, and maybe a little rushed. But I might get that little burr off there. This is our tube that's going to sort of collect all this excess oil that would typically just get stuck in the crankcase. 13mm, if you're curious. I don't know whether this needs to be heat resistant or not, but I'm assuming that's not. What's this? A lollipop. Thank you for purchasing from Western Filters, and they want you to support all their social media and so on. Might have that. Oh, and I got a complimentary hair. A couple of hairs from someone who has dark hair. Anyway, that's okay. I'm not scared of that. Filter checklist. It's been signed by someone there. They've ticked that I've got the ProVent 200, the 14 bracket, top hose, bottom hose, hose clamps, more hose clamps, M8 nuts and one 6mm nut, two M8 washers, one 6mm washer, cable ties, service sticker, instruction sheet, M8 by 16 bolts, P-clamp, description and drain kit. So it's nice to see that they're actually checking that everything is in the box. And at the bottom of the box we've just got some instructions on how to fit it, and I think I'll follow these instructions step by step. Total of 10 steps by the looks of it. I'll have a little read of this and then we might make a start. Okay everyone, I thought it'd be helpful just for you to know what tools that I'm going to use just for the install. So first of all, I've got my cordless impact driver, and to go with that I've got a 10mm socket with just this sort of universal bit to make it easier to get the engine cover off. Next I've got a 12mm socket on a ratchet that's going to help get the nut off on the brake booster bracket. I've got a pair of pliers. That's going to help loosen off the hose clamps that are on the vehicle already. And I've got a flathead screwdriver, and that'll allow me to tighten up the new hose clamps that come with the Catch Can kit. Okay, so we just want to take off these bolts on the engine cover. Alright, so I'm on to the next part where we put this bracket on. I've noticed that it's actually a little bit different, these instructions, to ones that I've seen other people do. Instead of mounting the bracket onto this bolt here that's on the brake booster, it seems that Western Filters have changed this and decided to put it on these OEM studs. Okay, so this one here down below and this one over here. So it seems like probably they've had some feedback about mounting it onto there, and maybe it's not so good, and maybe Mitsubishi has given them feedback that you can mount onto these front facing studs. I'm pretty sure these are 6mm studs. Okay, so I will need to go get a probably a 6mm socket or a spanner to do that. So I've just got a 10mm socket. We'll just tighten this back up again. And I'm just going to nip that up for the moment. And I'll just give this just a final little nip up. Alright. So just looking at that bracket now fitted on, that's pretty sturdy. I will say though, this brake fluid reservoir, you can see the bracket is right up against it. I don't think it's going to be an issue really that much, but you can see it's right up against that. Okay, let's go to the next step. So I've just got one of these really small hose clamps. Seems to fit nicely over this drain hose. There doesn't really seem to be any difference between one end and the other. And I'm just going to sort of just fit that onto there, nice and tight, and sort of center it, and we'll use the Phillips head to just tighten that up. Probably don't want to go too tight. That seems pretty tight. I don't think there's really much of a need to go tighter than that. There we go. Okay, so I'll just take off these M8 nuts and washers. Just put them aside. And we'll try to feed this down to the wheel well. There's a million different places that could go down here, and really a bit of a muck about, isn't it? Probably don't want it too close to the DPF if you can get away with it. So I've just fed that drain tube down there, and if you look down your wheel well, though it's very dark, but you'll see this little cover, this soft cover. I've sort of just threaded it behind this cover. I think that's probably going to be a fairly safe place to put it. You don't want it in front of the cover. So just back with this Provent, I tried to just put it onto this bracket, but the way it came from Western Filters, it was completely orientated around the wrong way. So I had to sort of take off this little sort of holder and turn the Provent so these were facing the engine, okay? So just make sure, have a close eye on that, okay? Because it was a little bit frustrating that it was actually orientated the wrong way. Let's put it on now. And that should be fairly sort of stable there. Just want to get those nuts. It sits up pretty high, I gotta say. We'll just doesn't have to be super tight. Remember, you are tightening it up against a hard plastic casing bracket, so you don't want to break that. And you can see that it's on there, and it seems pretty sturdy. You can undo this. They really want you to trim this hose to the required length. That thread there is where this P-clamp is going to go onto, okay? And where your hose is going to fit onto. So in terms of trimming it, I think I might trim it after I fitted it. Okay, so that was a little bit of a muck around, but that's pretty secure, that P-clamp for the chassis. Quite nice, so I'll just give you a little look. So that's all in there, and there'll still be a little bit of work to do yet. So now I'm just going to cut this off. Okay, just cut that off, just so it's just a little bit shy of underneath. I don't want it sitting down too low. This tap, once it's there, I don't want it sitting any too low at all really, so I can just always put that up a little bit closer. Try to put it in an orientation that makes it sort of easy to sort of access. You don't want it hanging below this. Okay, so that's pretty good and tight. So you can see there, I've just had a little bit of tube to sort of stick out underneath the clamp. I don't know how that's going to go. It should be good, and you can just open this tap quite easily if you need to. Alright, so I've just decided to put just one zip tie just around this point, not tight. I'm really trying just to hold the tube as far as I can away from the exhaust, and just gently holding that in place. And that's sort of sitting nicely in place like this. I'll just trim off this tag end. Be fairly sturdy, not really going anywhere. They say that you can empty these every about 5,000 Ks. Now this should be okay. If I go through some grass, that's not going to get pulled underneath. That's just going to sort of knock into that little nodule there, little hole. So it should be fairly safe in that spot. So now it's time just to remove this hose from the crankcase that goes down to the turbo and air inlet. Alright, so we've got it all fitted up, the top hose, bottom hose, all these on. I ran out of power, but that's it. If you like this, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, and I'll probably do a review next time. Cheers.